just gives enough people.
I actually want to have a conversation from my heart, guys. Today's going to be very different than what I normally talk about. For the last couple of days, I've really been seeking the right words to say. I know I've posted many things, and I know that, well, I wanted to read or say something to you guys that has been really on my heart and has been leaning heavy for me right now. I've been seeking the right words, and although I might not have the right words to say to you, because I'm not sure that there are any, but I need you to really understand what's on my heart and where I'm coming from. What has happened is absolutely devastating. People are absolutely fed up. People are fed up with racism and bigotry. The world is fed up with police brutality. People are fed up with looting and rioting. What the world wants and what Americans want is a peaceful change. We want to be heard, and people want meaningful, lasting change through peaceful protesting. Understand, guys, that this was the perfect storm. It was a powder keg. People have spent the last 2.5 months in their homes locked up. Incomes have been reduced, and the pressure for so many is absolutely incredible. And then you have an officer of the law, with prior multiple incidents, too many to list, someone who'd never been on the police force anymore, and he murdered a man. Then you have Antifa and the multiple paid protesters who've come out, and anarchists who are taking advantage of the situation, and they're inciting violence, and they're tearing us apart. This was bound to explode. I don't claim to have all the answers. I may not have any of the answers, but I do know a few things. I know that what we need is change. What we need to do is we need to deem Antifa and these domestic hate groups as terrorist organization. Anyone arrested involved with ties to them should be prosecuted as a terrorist. We need to allow for peaceful, organized marches for change. Guys, remember history. From the founding of this country, to the civil rights movement, to the women's movement, to the gay rights movement, to the fall of communism in the West with the Berlin Wall, and so many more times, change begins with us. We need to create meaningful, lasting change through dialogue with each other, with clergy, with heads of state, and as us as business leaders. That's where we begin. We need to clean up our local, our state, and our federal agencies, as well as our police forces, where profiling is still a problem based on skin color, and where a handful of bad apples are spoiling it for the bunch. Stop protecting those who are rotten, but lift up those officers who do an amazing job protecting our safety and our freedoms every single day. It was New York, the summer of 1989. I was 17 years old. Yes, now you can figure out how old I am. Actually, just a few years older than my boys. That year, one of the most poignant movies and impressionable movies of my youth and now my entire life, came out, and that was Spike Lee's movie, Do the Right Thing. You see, unfortunately, George, God rest his soul, he was the character Radio Raheem. And if you haven't seen the movie, I'm going to urge you, it's available, watch it. It's just a different version of the exact same experience. It was just the match. The underlying anger had long been brewing. It's the same freaking story 31 years later and over again. I never thought my kids would have to deal with this. I was raised different, they were raised different, but too many people still hate. I don't know what it's going to take to get the day that America realizes it needs to adopt the philosophy of the Jamaican coat of arms, out of many one people, because that's who we truly are. Wake up, America, the world has changed. We must lead forward with love, with compassion, with understanding, and with kindness. We must use the voice and our collective voice for the good it can do. I'm so proud to call you my friends and my family, and I look forward to leading this conversation forward and being part of that change. Your ALCs have been invited to a special meeting, and it's a conversation from the heart, an open and honest, caring conversation and dialogue on racism, equality, and inclusion, and what we can do as a KW family to move this forward. I'm going to remind you again about our Y4C2Ts, and I'm going to ask you to look at the fifth statement. And our fifth statement is communication, to seek first to understand. Don't jump to conclusions. seek first to understand. And I'm going to urge you as business leaders, I want you to take a stand, guys. If you won't stand for something, you will stand for anything. I love you all. I'm proud of you. Let's move this world forward. It starts with us.
I hope you guys take that all to heart. We're all in this together, and it's part of our culture to take care of each other and support each other and understand each other. So, thank you, Natascha. All right, we have our special guest, and I want to thank Natascha for bringing Dave Jenks on board. I believe he's here. Are you ready to go, Dave?
I am ready to talk with you, yes.
Awesome.
And I just want to say to Natascha, thank you for that level 5 leadership statement. I mean, finding a way to gain balance and perspective and connection in these chaotic times, right? And it's all chaotic, and including this. This is desperately chaotic, and we know that emotions are running high, and what we need is love. We need love, and we need compassion, and we need perspective, which you are bringing and Gary Keller's bringing to our system. If you've read his statement, which I know that you have, because we're built for that. Keller Williams is built, we're a loving company. We have the
company of heart.
We care about our real estate agents locally. We know that the real estate business is our agents. And as Gary says, we're Keller Williams, the company, is really just a bunch of other people whose role is to help our agents serve their clients and succeed and achieve their goals. And that's really why we're here. So thank you, Natascha and the team, for inviting me to be part of you. And I'm looking forward to next Wednesday at 2 p.m. your time, and to deliver a very powerful session. It'll go for about an hour and a half. I'll speak for probably a little over an hour, and then we'll open it up for Q&A, anything that anyone wants to ask me about anything to do with Keller Williams, the MREA shift, our perspective on what to do. What I am going to present on is really going to be 3 very important things. One is what to do right now as an individual agent, what to do right now, the 3 things to protect, and the three things to focus your energy and time and activities on. And then I want to take a special trip through MREA and Shift. I'm going to share with you what I call my detailed table of contents. So I've taken both of those books, and I have outlined, and I will send this to your team, to your level 5 leadership team, and they will distribute these. But it'll be part of what I talk about, which is the magic of MREA and Shift. And they're 2 different sides of the real estate production coin. And I'm really going to highlight the 12 most magical pages of MREA and the 12 most magical pages of Shift. So you can really focus on those and bring those into your business. And then the final part I want to do is what we're dealing with now, and that is how to keep your calm in the age of chaos, or a time of chaos, how to control your emotions in a meaningful way. What we call, as Gary and I, as we built in 1996, the 6 personal perspectives. And many of you have been to that and you teach it. It's one of the fundamental things, as well as the Y4C2Ts, in the Keller Williams culture, I believe, is the 6 personal perspectives. And what I want to focus on is the first one, which is a commitment to self-mastery. Because I think in any high achievement, service-oriented business, your biggest challenge is to deal with it and disappointment and things going wrong and people letting you down. All of the things that can happen, as well as the kind of chaos of the general society that we're dealing with now. And there's some perspective on that, how to manage yourself, how to manage your emotions, how to stay calm, how to build your mental toughness. And I've spent a lifetime working on that. Truthfully, I'll share some personal stories, both from Gary and me, about how we've had to learn through our struggles to accomplish the things we have and write the books and build the industry's greatest real estate company in history. It's amazing what it achieves. And the final part of that I just want to share right now is to understand that Keller Williams was built out of adversity. We are a company that gets adversity. And so Gary Keller, right at the beginning in 96 or 86, 87, in a very seriously downturned market in Texas, worse than the one that happened in 2007, 2008, he built the foundation of this company. And then, of course, You know, when 9/11 came, we had mega camp scheduled on 9/12, the day after 9/11, and we held it, and we held it again a month later, so the people who couldn't make it were there. In 2007, 2008, we wrote Shift to help our agents deal with this incredibly shifted marketplace. First time that it ever happened at that level. And of course, now here we are in another time of adversity, and Keller Williams just brilliantly has built the platform, Command and Consumer, and all of the things around it, so that in this age of technology, our agents will have more muscle than any other agent. So anyway, we'll talk about all that, Natascha, and any other questions that people have. But please join me. I would just tell you, I just did a session for 4 Keller Williams market centers in California yesterday, and the feedback I got from their top agents was amazing. And one guy said, I'm just going to say it, it's kind of bragging for me to say it, but he said, I have been in the world of professional selling and marketing for 40 years. I've been to all the seminars. He said, my wife and I are now building a wonderful real estate team with Keller Williams. He said, that session you just did, Dave, is the finest thing I have ever heard on selling, on marketing, and on personal achievement ever. So, I mean, that touched me for him to say it. I share it with you just as an aside to say, set that on your calendar next week, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Be with me. I'm looking forward to being with you.
Awesome, Dave. We're excited. We're looking forward to having you. And I'm going to ask you to do something that I didn't prep you for. But you are the originator of this. And I just had Morel put up our Y4C2T. So you know what I'm going to ask you to do, right?
Well, it's hard for me to do because, believe it or not, you know where I'm doing this Zoominar from? I mean, this Connect with You? In my car.
Ah, okay. We don't want you taking your hands off the wheel.
No, I'm not driving. I'm not on the interstate. No, I'm not on that. So I get it, and I'm happy to do it. But so everyone understand that for 12 years, I taught what's called franchise systems orientation. So every new team leader, every new OP, every MCA came through that for 12 years. I had the wonderful opportunity to touch them and share the vision of Keller Williams, the MVVBP, and all of that. And one of the things I understood when I got with the company, I was with Mo Anderson and Gary Keller, that everyone kind of knew about the Y4C2Ts. They knew about it, but they didn't know it. I always call it getting by win-win. I'd say to people, tell me about the Y4C2Ts. And they go, well, it's win-win or no deal. And I go, okay, then what else is it? And they go, well, what goes around comes around. It needs to be fair. Okay. Well, if it's got to be good for them, it's got to be good for you, and they couldn't get past win-win. So I call this getting past win-win. So follow me. This is how it goes. I'm going to try and do it in this little tight space. I call it kinesthetic learning. I use it in learning scripts and dialogues, by the way, listening presentations. I teach people. I did at family reunion, 3,400 people in the room. I had them all standing and mastering the 7 habits of highly effective people. I said, it's only 22 words. It's one of the greatest things ever written. It's a guideline for life. And you don't know the 7 habits, so I took them through and I call this kinesthetic learning because when you add physicality to what you're trying to memorize, it gets more deeply in your mind, and of course you express it better. So I know this is a tight environment, and maybe I'll tell you what, I promise, Natascha, when we have the session next week,
that's it.
I'll be in
You'll do it there.
I can step back and stand up, and you can do the whole
thing. You teach them how to do it there. There you go.
Well, that's okay. I'm happy to do it now because you asked. All right. So I don't want to ever say no to you, Natascha. I promise you. So it just goes simply like this. It's the Y4C2Ts, and it means it's win-win or no deal, right? It's integrity, do the right thing. It's customers, you point outward, always come first, right? Do the Dudley do right thing, always come first. It's commitment, it's a power move, commitment in all things. Communication, seek first to understand. Creativity, ideas before results. Teamwork, it's like a group hug. Teamwork, together everyone achieves more, right? YMCA, right? Together everyone achieves more. And then it's trust begins with honesty. Tell your truth, tell the truth, and then success results through people. That's it.
Awesome.
Y4C2Ts. It's fun, it's fun, and the business should be fun. But the Y4C2Ts, and I'll talk a little bit about that next Wednesday, is really the heart of a powerful listing presentation, as is page 95 of MREA, and we'll talk about that. Okay?
Awesome. Thank
Wonderful.
you, Dave.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for being here today. We'll see you next week.
All right. Yep. See you next week. And thank you for that powerful message that I got to tune into the end of as I came on. That is high-minded leadership, and it's high-minded synergy together. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for
All
joining
right.
us.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. All right. I'm super excited to announce our next guest. As I said in the beginning, we are so fortunate to have Cody Gibson here today with United Home Group. So welcome, Cody, and you have the floor. For some people, they may not know who you are. He's an amazing, bold coach, and I know I told a lot of them that you're thinking about expanding into South Florida. I've already spoken with Marissa a few times. She's been here at our market center. So just share with what you want, do what you got. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. When I started expanding in 2010, our idea was to be in, I remember thinking, if there was a way to be operating in 10 cities, like if there was a way for a real estate agent to be successful somewhere and then to be able to duplicate that or to expand that into 10 additional cities. And I remember thinking how big that sounded. And that would have been in 2010. By 2013, I had written an official goal that we were going to be in 40 cities by 2020. And I want you to think about that just for a second. And I'll bring all this back to why I'm sharing the story. It was going to be 40 cities by 2020. And at the time in 2013, we were in 3 cities. And you think about how far away 40 feels from 3. I mean, it's a mile, like it's a long way, right? And I was going on stage, it would have been late 16 or early 17, somewhere in there. And I was going on stage at an event, and at the time, my executive assistant handed me like this brochure that was about United Home Group. And she goes, "Hey, we've got to change this." Like on the back, it had, some missions and values stated like Dave was just talking about. And it had a goal of 40 cities by 2020. And at the time, late 16 or early 17, we were in like 67 or 66 cities. In other words, she was saying it's time to update this. And I made the comment, I said, I don't ever want to update it. Like, I don't want to change it. Like, I know we've already beat the goal. Like, we far surpassed it. And I want you to think for a second, one of the things that happened was this. I set the goal of 40 cities by 2020 because I didn't know how big we could go. I didn't know how far it could be. And people always think like you hear the comment, like, begin with the end in mind, which isn't a terrible comment. It's just, who the hell knows what the end looks like? Who knows how far it could go? I've got no idea. I do not know. We think sometimes like I'm real close to Gary, right? And so Gary told me once, he said, "Cody, I don't know that I ever thought Keller Williams was going to be in 25 or 27 different countries." He said, "I don't know." He said, "I had no idea." He said, "I do know that I was always willing to let it go." And here's what I want you to write down. He said, "I always knew I was willing to let it go as big and as far as it could." So be careful with your own limitations. Because I'd written 40 cities, and people will sometimes think that it takes somebody who is brilliant to set goals like this. Let me tell you why I set 40 cities by 2020. There was one reason. Well, I guess it was 2 reasons. Reason number 1, I wanted it to sound like a lot. There wasn't a whole lot of thought behind it. Reason number 2, I turned 40 in 2020. And so I thought, what a fun play on the idea, the year that you turn 40, your business might be in 40 cities. That's it. Like, that is the mental gymnastics of setting a goal like that. And of course, today we're in 105 or 106 cities. And I tell you that entire story to say this. The reason that I kept that number, and I still have the brochure laying around that we had originally created of 40 cities by 2020, is to remind myself that even when I think that I'm thinking big, I'm probably not. Because you can only see big from where you currently are. If you're selling 12 homes a year, selling 50 sounds like a lot. Though if you're selling 50 homes a year, selling 150 sounds like a lot. And I would just caution, be careful with setting those goals. And I've come to the point in my life where it's very much baby goals. It's just mini goals. And especially during the time that we're in right now, 100% during the quarantine issue, during the COVID-19 issue, during all that stuff, like it's just baby goals. I remember I was talking with Gary. We were on the phone. It was probably, I forget how many weeks ago it was. It was probably 4 weeks though. So it was probably 6 weeks into all of this being an issue. And it was like a Friday evening and we hopped on a call together and he just kind of breathed heavy and he said, "How are you?" And we kind of talked for a minute and I said, "Man, I'm tired. Like I'm really tired." Number one, it was Friday night after an entire week of work. So I'm always tired. And he sighed and he said, "I don't remember a time in my business career that I've been this exhausted." And I want to share that story with you so that I can say this. If you feel a little tired right now, you're okay. If you're a little bit exhausted, you're in the right spot. You're in good company. If you feel like, man, I am mentally drained at the end of every day right now, you're in the right place. You're doing it right. You're doing this the right way. And he made another comment. He said, he goes, blah, 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 blah. My goals for the year don't exist anymore. And I kind of stopped him and I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, here's what I mean." He said, I didn't go into 2020 thinking about COVID. He said, "I didn't go into 2020 thinking, how in the world are we going to pull off mega camp when we can't be together? How in the world are we going to have bold sessions across the country when we can't be in the same room?" He goes, "I didn't go into 2020 thinking that." And he said, "Cody, neither did you." He said, "So all the goals that you had set, you have to be willing to take all those goals and put them to the side for a second and be willing to reforecast them. Be willing to stop and think, what's the goal today? No longer what's the goal for 2020? What's the goal for this week? What's the goal for this month?" I mean, I don't know which camp you're in. Like, I don't know. I mean, when this whole thing started to slide, all right, like in February and March, when this whole thing started to slide, I was one of the people, I was in the camp that was like, this is ridiculous. We're making a big deal out of nothing. Like, I was in that camp. By the time everything really blew up, it didn't matter which camp I was in. It didn't matter my feelings around it. It didn't matter, it didn't matter my opinion, because my opinion no longer counted, because it impacted the entire world and the entire country almost the same way. And you think about how it's impacted the real estate sales business, right? Now, what's interesting is this. The sales business, our expansion business is in 105, 106 cities. In some of those cities, the real estate sales business is as strong as it was in March or April. And some of those cities were down 10 or 15%. And some of those cities were down 30 and 35%. I was doing a podcast and it was probably a month ago or 3 weeks ago. And the guy got me ready. He goes, "All right, Cody, I need you to come on this podcast and tell everybody how this shift is nothing like the shift of 2008 when it was horrendous." Now, I was selling homes in 2008, so I remember what that looked like. And I said, "I'm not doing it, man. I'm not doing it. I'm not coming on your podcast and doing it." I said, "What I feel like you're asking me to do is to hop in front of a whole bunch of people." They had thousands of listeners. I said, "I think what you're asking me to do is to hop on there and tell everybody this is going to be okay, and that home sales are going to stay up, and this is going to be a blip on the radar screen, and that they're not going to feel it." And I said, "I refuse to do it, man. I won't do it." So I declined. I said, I'm not going to go on and say it, because I don't have that crystal ball. I don't know it. Now, if you think about it, I want you to think every single time there's been a massive real estate shift, it's never been the same thing. It's never been the same issue that caused it. One time a massive shift was caused by war. One time a massive shift was caused by technology. One time a massive shift was caused by oil prices at the world level. Another time it was caused by interest rates. It's never the same thing. It's never the same thing. What we know is this: the result remains the same. Tougher to sell homes, less home selling, prices come down a little bit, blah, 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 blah. Like if you look at how we've tracked it for the last 110 years, about every 9 to 12 years, there's some type of massive shift that adjusts the pricing, that adjusts the way we sell homes. Now, what you have to know is this: there's always opportunity. There's somebody in the last shift who created their entire business model in the last shift. Remember, the last time that the real estate business shifted hard, Keller Williams as a franchise went into it number 5 in the world, came out of it number 1 in the world. So I need you to not be worried about a shift. I need you to not be worried about what happens in the real estate market. It doesn't change whether you can be successful. Here's what I want you to write down. It does change how you play the game. It doesn't change if you can win. It 100% changes how you play. We're already, I need you to hear this. I need you to hear it. We're already having conversations in certain parts of the country around short sales. Guess what's happening in Phoenix? We're seeing short sales pop up again. Is that good or is that bad? It's irrelevant because you and I don't get to control it. We get to work in it. I need you to be okay. I just need you to breathe and be okay with what's happening. Now, I want you to be completely ready for a massive shift. If you were to say, if we were sitting in my backyard next to the fire and you said, Cody, what is your opinion? My personal opinion is that you're going to see prices come down. My personal opinion, you're going to see less homes selling. My personal opinion, you're going to see the real estate market shift and adjust the way it probably needs to. We were probably well on our way for a massive economic shift in 2021 anyway. Think about what happens in the year 2021. It's the year following a massive election. The majority of the time, I mean, for your and my adult history, do most presidents serve 1 term or 2 terms? For our adult history, for the vast majority, it's 2 terms. Regardless of how you or I feel about politics or who we like or who should be elected or who shouldn't, none of that really matters to me. What matters is, historically speaking, it's 2 years. I mean, 2 terms. Regardless, though, the president that wants to be reelected in the last year of their 4 years uses every lever and every button to keep the economy as high and as good as it can possibly be. And then in year 5, which would be year 1 of term 2, they spend that year cleaning it up. Like, you got to pay for stuff, right? Like, you have to pay for things at some point. And so that's what usually happens. Now, if that president doesn't win, then the new president ends up cleaning that up. Either way, you're using every single lever that you can to keep things strong. No president wants a weak economy moving into a re-election year. They don't want it. They don't want it. And so you have to remember, we were already doing that, and then COVID hits. We have unemployment rates today that are exceeding unemployment rates of the Great Depression. Now, the difference between today and the Great Depression is the federal government jumped right in and they seeded the world, they seeded the country's economy with payroll loans, with EIDL loans, and the money hit the street. And so far, like, it's been doing exactly what the feds wanted it to do. It kept businesses saying, it's okay, we're not going to lay off as many people as we thought we were going to have to, we're going to be able to live on this. But you and I both know what that looks like. You see, the world today is living the way that a real estate agent already knows how to live. I want you to think about it just for a moment. If you do something today as a real estate agent, how far out are your results? You talk to someone today who's thinking about selling your home or thinking about buying. I mean, you and I both know, like, we are 2, 3, 4 months from something actually happening, right? Because if we're 6 weeks or 8 weeks from showing homes and doing all that, and then we're in contract, I mean, you can do the math. We're 90 days from a result. We're also 90 days from a disappointment. Think about a transaction that craters. That's not going to crater right away. That's 80 or 90 days out too. And that's what the country's working with right now. You and I are already used to it. Now, I say all that to then be able to say this. The industry and the economy doesn't dictate if you succeed or not. But I don't want you to bury your head in the sand and say everything's okay out there. It's not okay out there. It needs to be okay up here. Do you see the difference? Like, the way that we see it, the way that we look at it, the way that we think, this should 100% adjust your actions. If you want to win today in real estate, you're going to be doing some things like right now, you hit pause on everything. Right now, you do some things that maybe didn't work 2 months or 3 months ago, and they might not work 3 months from today. You've got to be doing the real estate activities today that are the market of the moment. And you think about how you take your message and you take your method, and how do you put those together? So here's 2 ideas that I think that you could use right now. That would be, you can go put them in place today, like right now. The other thing is this, and I want you to write this down. You don't have time to get ready. Let me say it again. You don't have time to get ready. You don't have 3 weeks to investigate this. You don't have 3 weeks to do your due diligence. You don't have 3 weeks to study it. You don't have 3 weeks to go and talk to 5 agents who have done it and kick it around and look at ideas. You don't have it. Listen, my friend, time is not your friend today. You've got to move quick. You have to take action and be willing for it to fall apart. You have to take action and be willing to fail at it. What I've also come to understand is that 80% of all plans work. Most things work. For years now, it's driven me nuts how a realtor will say, well, does that work? Or does that lead generation strategy works? And you go, yes, Scooter, everything works. You could put a sign on a donkey and walk it around town, and the sign could read, follow me to list your home. Sooner or later, someone's going to follow you to list their home. Everything works. The question is, does it work well enough for me to want to do it? Does it work with my ROI? Does it work with my return on investment? That's the question. It's not, does it work? Of course it works. Everything works. Knocking on doors works. There is somebody who has walked down a street and back up the other side and knocked on random doors with a terrible script and landed $1 million or $2 million sale. Does that mean it's a great model? I don't know. It means it worked one day. There's somebody, stick with me. There is somebody who has been standing in line at Starbucks and talked to the person behind them that became a $2 million client. Does that mean it works? It worked that day, but you know what I've never seen? And I've looked at thousands of business plans for real estate agents. You know what I've never seen? Talk to random people at Starbucks and make a bunch of money. Just because something works doesn't make it a great model. You ever look at the real estate business the way I do, and you think sometimes, you go, you know what? Sometimes it's just lucky. Sometimes I just get lucky. Sometimes, and here's what I want you to write down, it's just about putting myself in the way of something good to happen. I promise we overcomplicate this thing. I promise we make this more difficult than it needs to be. We make it hard. All right, so here's something you can go do right now. This is an opportunity. The entire world is looking for virtual, regardless of politics, regardless of thoughts. I mean, I'm of the school, I believe my school of thought is that you're going to see that we are going to see a second giant wave of COVID. Unless we have some magic pill or some magic shot that deals with it, we're going to see a giant second wave, and we're going to see a bunch of our states and a bunch of our cities get shoved back into a quarantine challenge. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that doesn't happen. But my personal opinion is that's probably where it's going to go. That's my opinion. Doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong. It doesn't matter if it happens or doesn't happen, because how much control do I have? I have literally zero. I have no control over it, none. So I spend very little time thinking about it because it doesn't matter what I think. A friend of mine in Vegas, here's what he did, and take notes on this. It's a great example of what you can go do right now. Here's what he did. He adopted an animal, like a little puppy, at an animal shelter. And he's a great big guy. He looks like someone who like rides a Harley, and he looks like a Hell's Angel. And of course, he's 275 pounds probably, and everybody calls him tiny. Like you could imagine how this looks. He adopts this tiny little dog, like one of these little rat-looking dogs, and he puts on Facebook, he goes, hey, everybody, I adopted this dog, and he has a soft spot for a no-kill animal shelter. So he adopts this dog, and he goes, hey, what do you think we should name this guy? We've adopted him. What should we name him? And his Facebook blows up. He's got more comments, more suggestions, more likes, more direct messages than he's ever had on anything he's ever posted in his entire life. And he thought to himself, I wonder how much business I could do through this. There's an incredible book that you could go read. It's called Give and Take. And the book, it's a book that Gary's asked us in his private mastermind group to read at least 2 times. Give and take. The idea is when you give, what can you take back? When you give, how do you give strategically? How do you give in such a way that your real estate business could also be bolstered? So here's the rest of the story. And so here's what he did on week number 2. On week 2, he went and it's like, I forget if it's $40 a week or $50 a week, but there's a certain amount of money a week that you could give to the no-kill animal shelter, and that keeps that animal alive. And he has like a big heart for a no-kill animal shelter. So what he did was he said, hey, everybody, I've already adopted the one pet that I could personally have, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to pay to keep this one alive. And they took a picture like it was a cat. And they were like, listen, we're going to keep this cat alive. We believe in no-kill animal shelters. We're going to take care of sponsoring the cat's life this week. Who do we know who wants to adopt this cat? And he started seeing all these posts and all these tags, and somebody went and adopted the cat. So here's what they did on week number 3. On week number 3, they created a Facebook group that was just about this no-kill animal shelter sponsored by his real estate sales business. Fast forward, they have 17,000 people in the group. It's based in Vegas, and they have 17,000 people in the group. The vast majority of them are locals. And guess what his real estate team does every week? They go and take a picture of a few animals and they say, who wants to adopt this one? Who wants to adopt this one? Now, as a real estate business, I need you to hear this. I need you to think like a marketeer and not like a realtor. Here's their tagline. Their tagline is this. And so imagine, big old guy holding an animal. He goes, hey, at the blah, blah, blah real estate team, we don't just find homes for people, we find homes for animals too. Just think how manipulative that is. That is freaking fantastic. Do you understand it? And so it's awesome. And so here's their entire, I need you to hear this, their entire lead generation model is based off this Facebook group. They have 17,000 people in what you and I would call a database. He wakes up every day and his lead generation effort is to drive homes for animals at a no-kill animal shelter. People call in and say, oh my gosh, there's nobody else in town I'd rather work with. You're just like me. He'll sometimes take an animal with him, like they'll go, you could imagine how kind the no-kill animal shelter is to them, right? Like they really take care of each other. Now, when you hear this, I want you to think of it like this. Imagine you woke up this morning and you looked at your real estate sales business. You looked at your database. Did you have people that were knocking on your door this morning electronically saying, let me into your database? Or are you like me and you send out a mass email and hope that they don't hit the unsubscribe button? This guy woke up this morning and had 17, or they average 15 or 17. They had 15 or 17 requests to be a member of the Facebook group, which is simply somebody saying, let me into your database. Do you see the difference of these two businesses? If he was on this call right now, he'd be the only one who woke up this morning with somebody saying, let me in. So I tell you that entire story to say this. Go choose, like this is your time. Go choose something that you're passionate about. Go choose something that you love. Now, here's the challenge for me, right? Do I care about no-kill animal shelters? Yeah. Is it my burning passion? Probably not. I grew up in Alaska. I love animals. They're all delicious. So for me, like a no-kill animal shelter, like it wouldn't be my jam. Like it wouldn't drive me out of bed and go, no, I got to save these animals, man. This guy though, he goes, I got to save these animals. And he's making a tremendous income in his real estate sales business because he's a zealot about saving these animals. And the people that also are zealots about saving these animals, people like themselves. So here's what doesn't happen in his world that sometimes happens in yours and mine. You and I might wake up and go, well, I got to get that lead gen done today. I didn't do it yesterday. I knew I needed to. Today is my day. I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull myself up by the bootstraps and I'm going to lead gen. Today, I'm going to do it. You know what he never thinks? He never thinks, well, today I've got to get that lead gen done. You know what he thinks? Today I've got to save an animal. And because I save an animal and I do it in front of people that also want to save animals, they all choose to work with me. Now, as you hear that story, I want you to think about something in your own real estate business, something in your own database, something in your own city that you know what? I can be that passionate about it. Did you know that he never sits at someone's kitchen counter and has them say, well, could you reduce your commission? Because part of his lead generation and part of his listing presentation is he has photos of some of the animals that his team has rescued in the last 2 months. So when he has those photos on the kitchen counter, I mean, today it's all through Zoom, but when he has those photos on the kitchen counter, who's going to ask for a reduction when it means that these animals don't get helped? Now, you got to think about what works for you. Some of you are like, man, I got to go find me a no-kill animal shelter. And some of you are like, you know what, I gotta go find a food bank. And some of you are like, you know what, I gotta go find this, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Choose something that's important to you and then lead generate around it like crazy. You've got a dream and you've got a hope. You've got a goal of something you'd like to accomplish. Now, the best way to predict the future, this is directly from Gary. I want you to write this down. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Now, you create it with the actions, right? And I don't believe that we choose our future. I believe that we choose our habits. And I believe that our habits lay out the future. I also think that we're paid in direct proportion to the level of questions that we ask. So what questions do you ask? Do you ask questions that keep somebody up at night? Or do you ask questions like, will you work with me? You're sitting on what's going to be, you've got to get a hold of this. You're sitting on what's going to be one of the most pivotal moments of your real estate sales business. There will be somebody sitting on stage at family reunion or mega camp. It'll probably be in 2 years. And they'll say something like, I did XYZ or XYZ, and Gary's going to be interviewing her, and he's going to say, when did this happen? And she's going to say, this happened during COVID. I completely pivoted the business, and I did this and this and this, and I never went back. And I built a gargantuan business. You know what most realtors are doing? They're hanging out. They're waiting for things to change. They're hoping for something to happen. I need you to make something happen. There's 2 scripts right now. There's 2 scripts that play on every single call. Number 1, how are you doing? Number 2, what do you need right now? I need you to be careful on social media. Be careful. There's so much division. You have the other challenges that are happening. It's a weird time. If you don't wake up right now in our country and feel like things are strange, you didn't wake up today. Now, strange isn't bad. Strange can be good. I'm all for everything, but I need you to be careful on social media. I also think that you're better than the memes. Let me tell you what I mean. For the last 2.5 months or 3 months, like I love all the memes. In fact, all of my friends on here that see an amazing, funny real estate meme during quarantine or during COVID or whatever, send them to me. Just don't put them on your Facebook wall. Don't put them on Instagram. You're better than that. You only have so much space for someone to see what you're talking about. And if you want to do business from social media, by the way, Facebook will tell you that scroll is up 250% from before COVID. Makes perfect sense, right? And you've got giant companies today, even though some cities and some states have relaxed quarantine laws and they're allowing this or whatever. I went and ate at a restaurant the other day, and the restaurant's allowed to have people back in the restaurant, but they can only do 25% capacity of the restaurant. Well, if you've ever been in the restaurant business or the food business, it's already incredibly tight to make a profit. And that business is going to spend money, not make money, to be at 25% capacity. This is an interesting time. This is the time that you may never see again in your life. It may be a time I don't see again in my life. But here's what I need you to understand. The business that you build right now, you'll never give up. But the business you lose right now, you may never find again. This is your opportunity. By the way, big business, and I know I've only got a minute or 2 left, big business has already gone back to directly selling. Here's what I mean. Watch your email, watch your phone. It is okay to go back to selling. For about a month, we said, listen, right now, the play is just care calls. How are you doing? What's going on? How can I help? Like it's care call, care call, care call. You should be care call, direct offer, care call, direct offer. Care call, direct offer, because big business has already gone back to a direct offer. About 4 weeks ago, it started happening, which means you're completely cool right now. You're not callous, you're not rude, you're not you're not taking advantage of anything. You're not a heartless capitalist by saying, who could I help? By saying, can I help with your real estate needs? By saying, what needs do you have this week or what's going on? And here's the script I want you to use. I want you to write this down. I want to match my behavior to your motivation. When you need me, I'm ready. I want to match my behavior to your motivation, and when you need me, I'm ready. You see, who people are hearing from today is going to dictate who they listen to in 90 days. Let me say it again. Who people are hearing from today dictates who they're listening to in 90 days. You've got to find a way to be in touch with everybody. And by the way, what we've learned is this. Right now, you can't over-communicate. If you are not tired of having the same conversation over and over and over again, then you're doing this wrong. You should be tired of having the same conversation. You should be exhausted by saying the same 200 or 300 words over and over and over again, because that's what this is. That's the moment that you're in. This isn't the moment to be highly creative and be different. This isn't the moment to be saying something different all day long. This is the moment where you say the same thing again and again and again and again. And then you allow it to grow your real estate business. I'm going to leave you with two thoughts. Growth and failure both follow discomfort. Discomfort follows challenge or strain, but growth and failure follow discomfort. Which you find is going to be dictated by the decisions that you make during the discomfort. You make one decision that causes growth. You make another, it causes discomfort. None of us get to walk through it without the pain, though. Every one of us have the pain of what's been going on in COVID. Every one of us has the pain of how it's dramatically shifted our real estate sales business. And every one of us has to get through it. Whether it causes discomfort or whether it causes growth is depicted by the choices that you make during it. Remember, you choose your habits choose your future. I want you to have great big goals, but I want you to have baby goals. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, what do you think about blah, blah, blah? They were talking about Q4. And I remember thinking, what the hell are you talking about? We are so far from Q4. I don't have any idea what's going to be happening by Q4. Are you kidding me right now? Like, things are changing daily. Who knows what's going to happen? I live in Portland, Oregon. We still, like in our city, we still can't go to a store. Stores are closed. We still can't go to a restaurant. Restaurants are closed. There's a couple of states that have already reversed. They were lifting the quarantine and all the numbers shot up through the roof. And now they're reversing it and going back into it. I'm not here to scare anybody. Like, how much control do you and I have over this? Zero. We just got to live through it. We just got to be here through it. All right, last thing. Our internet lead generation, through the roof right now. We're killing it in internet lead generation. Of course, because people are online more, but we're killing it in internet lead gen. And so if you're not doing something with internet lead gen, do something around it. There's 3 words, if you're going to post on Facebook or Instagram, there's 3 words that you have to get clear on. And those 3 words are called stop the scroll. In other words, whatever you post, people just do this. And if it doesn't stop the scroll, if it doesn't make them stop and read what you wrote or look at what you wrote, it was worthless. So don't write it. It didn't matter. You have to stop the scroll or no one's going to work with you on that. By the way, our internet lead gen, like I said, through the roof. We have more leads for less CPL, which is cost per lead, than we've ever had. We're killing it with that right now. Now, whether that's the case in 3 months or not, I don't know. There's a couple of things. You need data. I don't make any money from this, but one of my partners is Land Voice. If you need data to find for sale by owners, expireds, or neighborhood data, talk to Land Voice. If you go to their company, you'll find it, there's a few clicks. They're offering right now 75% off, I think for 3 months or 4 months. And there's a certain button, you'll see my face on there. That's who I buy the data from. There's lots of companies that supply it, but I need it. And one of the reasons for it, what I like about it, even if you don't want to work FSBOs and expires or whatever, the neighborhood search, you put in an address and you can draw a box around it and it goes and pulls all the data for those homeowners. It's awesome. So go check it out. I'll leave you with this thought. It took me 4 years to get it to market. I've developed a tracking app for real estate agents. Have you ever used like like MyFitnessPal is the one that I like a fitness app, and you put in everything you eat and every jog you go on or run you go on or exercise, and it tracks everything. I created one for real estate agents. It's called Hippo Pulse. Hippo like hippopotamus, and pulse like a pulse on your business. It's called Hippo Pulse. It's in the App Store, both Android and iPhone. Took 4 years to get here. Like, I've learned I had no idea. I thought it was easy. It was not easy. Anyway, it's $5 a month. I'd be honored if you took a look at it. If you do use it, all I ask is that you give us feedback. Tell us how to make it better. Tell us how to make it great. You put in your goals and then you track your activities. Contacts, appointments set, appointments held, and then it constantly tells you, here's where you wanted to be, here's where you are. We love it. So it's called Hippo Pulse. I'd be honored if you checked it out, if it works for you, and then just give us feedback on how we can make it better. So that's about as many words as I can say in 34 minutes. without taking a breath.
Well, it was fabulous. Thank you, Cody. We really appreciate your time and joining us. I know it's a little earlier there for you than it is here.
Right. So here's, I'm going to give you this. My email address is codygibson@kw.com. My mobile number, I'm doing what you're doing right now. I don't know how else to say it. I am working my ass off. I'm waking up in the morning and I work. Like I immediately grab my phone, I go right to work. And then at night, I'm right back at work. I'm doing what you're doing. Like you're probably working from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep right now. And that's okay. That's probably the moment you're at in your business right now. This might be where you wake up an hour early. It might be where you stay up an hour late. I mean, I don't know about you. I've got 3 kids. 2 of them are school age. One's 18, which I still refuse to believe. But I've got 2 that are school age, which means I have overnight become a homeschool teacher. Like I get it. Like it's a weird time, man. So my mobile number is 907-529-5172. 907-529-5172. This is one of the hardest times you're going to walk through in your professional career. If you need to reach out to someone, if you need to text me, if you need to just say, hey, this is killing me, like I am struggling with this, please do it. Please do it. Like we don't get through this alone. We get through this together. So if I can help with something, you just let me know.